I want you to picture something for a second. Imagine you are scrolling through your feed and you see a massive pop star, right? Like someone at the absolute pinnacle of fame.
Right. Someone completely untouchable.
Exactly. And they look completely perfect. The lighting is flawless. The outfit is custom couture. And the narrative around them is just completely impenetrable.
Yeah. It's a completely curated image.
But, I mean, what if I told you that a massive growing percentage of the internet genuinely believes that person is actually like a lab-grown clone?
Oh, yeah. It's wild how common that is now.
It is, and more importantly, what if I told you that believing they are some kind of science fiction clone is actually easier for us to swallow than accepting the brutal, deeply messy human reality of what it takes to survive in that position?
Well, it's a profound psychological defense mechanism. When
Yeah.
we look at a gleaming 100-story skyscraper of celebrity, we only really want to admire the surface.
Right. We just want to see the shiny reflection.
Exactly. We look at the glittering glass, the sheer impossible height of the thing, and it looks totally effortless.
But you don't think about the rebar. You don't think about the thousands of tons of concrete or the absolute crushing subterranean pressure that the foundation is under just to keep that glass looking pretty for the people walking by.
You never wonder what structural integrity is holding it all up until there is a massive crack in the glass, or until the whole building starts to sway just a little too much in the wind.
And right now, across the entertainment industry, the buildings are swaying violently.
They really are. It's collapsing in real time.
And that is exactly our mission today. So consider this a playfully stark warning to you listening right now. We are going down some incredibly deep, dark rabbit holes today.
Oh, we're going way down into the basement.
Right. We are heading straight down into the basement of that skyscraper to pull back the curtain on the Hollywood machine. We are going to unpack the chaotic intersections of extreme physical pressure, heavily manufactured PR, deeply toxic workplaces, and yeah, the bizarre public conspiracies that rush in to fill the gaps when reality becomes just too strange to explain.
It's going to get weird. We're talking fake pregnancies, secret hush money payments, and, as you said, alleged clones.
But I promise you, we are keeping it all grounded in what these phenomena actually say about our culture and about you, the person consuming this media every single day in this deep dive.
Because none of this happens in a vacuum, right? The machine only builds the skyscraper because we are all standing on the sidewalk staring up at it.
So let's start with the most public-facing part of this machine, the stage. There is this concept that floats around the internet every spring called the Coachella curse.
Oh, the famous curse.
Right. It's this idea that some supernatural bad luck plagues performers at these massive desert mega festivals. But, I mean, there is no ghost in the desert.
No, the reality is far more grounded and, frankly, much more dangerous. Live festivals represent the ultimate collision of human frailty and the demand for absolute godlike perfection.
Yeah, perfection that just isn't biologically possible.
Exactly. To understand the physical limitations that artists push themselves past, we have to look at the environment itself. I mean, you are dealing with intense desert heat, high winds, massive amounts of dust, and severe sleep deprivation.
And into that environment steps an artist like Kid Cudi, a legendary artist performing to a sea of thousands of people.
Right. And in the heat of that moment, the adrenaline is just pumping. The energy of that massive crowd is hitting him like a physical wave.
Yeah, it's intoxicating.
So he makes a split-second decision to jump off the stage to get closer to the fans.
Which, if you've ever been to a concert, is Performer 101. It's the classic move to hype up the crowd.
It is. But the human body doesn't care about the hype. He was 40 years old at the time. He makes the jump, miscalculates the landing by a fraction of an inch, and completely shatters his heel.
Oh, that's just brutal.
Just like that, the music stops. He literally had to be carried off the grounds. But the injury is just the first domino.
Right, because when a headliner breaks a bone, what actually happens behind the scenes? Like, it's not just a hospital visit.
The cascading logistical effect is catastrophic. Because of that one split-second decision, he had to cancel his entire upcoming global tour.
That is mind-blowing to me. It's like building a billion-dollar sandcastle in the middle of a hurricane.
Yeah.
One bad jump, 1 millimeter of miscalculation on a landing, and an entire multi-million-dollar tour ecosystem just evaporates.
Completely vanishes.
I mean, think about the roadies, the dancers, the lighting technicians, the venue contracts, the insurance adjusters. All of it collapses instantly because one human ankle gave out.
And that is just the physical danger. The psychological and financial pressure is equally staggering, if not more so, honestly. We can see this vividly with Justin Bieber's increasingly erratic festival behavior over the years.
I'm so glad you brought him up because the narrative around him is just so chaotic. Walk me through the actual pressures on him in those festival environments.
Well, you have to look at the stakes. You have a highly anticipated headlining set, and there is massive pressure to deliver. But beyond the crowd, there is a reported mega deal with Netflix to film a documentary about his journey to that very stage.
Oh, wow. So there are cameras literally everywhere.
Everywhere. It's a structure very similar to what Beyoncé did with her Homecoming documentary. So immediately, you have huge financial stakes tied not just to the music, but to the narrative of his comeback.
And there is an immense need to generate capital, right? I've heard rumors about his financial burn rate being absolutely astronomical.
The reports, specifically around 2022, suggested he was spending upwards of $1.3 million a month.
Wait, $1.3 million a month? How is that even possible? What are you even buying?
Well, when you factor in multiple massive estates, a fleet of private security required 247, an enormous payroll for his management and creative teams, private aviation, and just general lifestyle maintenance, the burn rate for a megastar is unimaginable to the average person.
That is insane.
So he has to perform. He has to generate that capital. But simultaneously, he is battling very real, terrifying health issues. He was diagnosed with Ramsay-Hunt syndrome.
For those who might not know, what exactly is that? It sounds terrifying.
It is. It's a rare neurological complication caused by the same virus that causes chickenpox and shingles. It essentially attacks the facial nerve near one of your ears, and it can cause severe pain, hearing loss, and most visibly, partial facial paralysis.
So he literally could not move half of his face.
Correct. So you combine these factors, right? A human being dealing with a chronic, visible, terrifying illness, intense financial burn rates, and the pressure of a Netflix camera crew documenting his every move in a high-stress desert environment.
That sounds like actual torture.
How does a human mind process that? It often manifests as extreme, erratic behavior.
Like the footage of him in the artist section at Coachella. We saw him dancing wildly, looking almost entirely disconnected from reality, and then physically clashing with security guards.
Yeah, that was really hard to watch.
It escalated to the point where he and his entire entourage were actually escorted out of the festival.
And this wasn't an isolated incident. There is a long history of this pressure boiling over. We've seen past footage of him throwing water bottles at paparazzi, screaming at them, yelling that all they care about is money and not human beings.
Wow.
It is a portrait of a person cracking under the atmospheric pressure of global expectations.
It makes you wonder, are these massive festivals setting artists up to fail by prioritizing the visual spectacle over actual musical logistics and human well-being?
What is fascinating here is the illusion of control. The festival organizers sell this perfectly curated utopian weekend in the desert, but the variables are mechanically impossible to manage. Take Megan Thee Stallion's set.
Oh, this is the perfect example of the artist being totally powerless. I remember this.
Exactly. She is on stage, putting on an incredible show, giving the crowd exactly what they paid for, and suddenly, right in the middle of her performance, her music and her microphone are completely cut off.
Just dead air in front of tens of thousands of people.
Yeah, just silence.
And to a fan in the crowd, it looks like a massive technical glitch, but it wasn't a glitch at all, was it?
No, it was a purely financial calculation by the festival organizers. The festival operates under strict noise ordinances dictated by the local city. If a set goes even a single minute past the local curfew, the festival gets hit with astronomical fines.
How much are we talking about? Like, what's the penalty?
In 2023 alone, the festival was fined $117,000 just for going past curfew.
Oh my gosh.
So the organizers are sitting in a control booth watching a clock. They do not care if you are halfway through your biggest multi-platinum hit. They will pull the plug and humiliate you on stage to save their bottom line. The artist is essentially a highly paid employee who could be silenced with the flip of a switch.
That is so deeply dystopian. But I guess it's a two-way street because sometimes the disasters are entirely self-inflicted by the artists themselves. I am thinking specifically of Frank Ocean's infamous 2023 flop.
Oh, that performance is a masterclass in creative hubris colliding with logistical reality.
It really is.
Frank Ocean was returning to the stage after a 6-year hiatus. The anticipation in the culture was at an absolute boiling point. Fans had bought tickets specifically for him, and his plan was grandiose, right? He had this elaborate multi-million-dollar ice rink constructed directly on the stage.
Wait. An ice rink in the middle of the California desert?
Yes, and with a cast of professional ice skaters hired and rehearsed.
That is ridiculous.
The mechanical engineering required to keep a massive sheet of ice frozen under stage lights in that environment is staggering. But the machinery worked. The ice was ready. But then, at the very last minute, Frank Ocean decides he just isn't feeling the creative vibe.
No way.
He orders the crew to melt the ice rink.
He melts the ice rink right before the show. I cannot even fathom the panic of the production crew hearing that order.
It was complete chaos. Because of this last-minute deconstruction, he starts the show an hour late. When he finally appears, he hides behind a giant screen for 30 minutes, barely visible to the audience.
What a letdown for the fans.
And then he rearranges his beloved hits into these bizarre, disjointed remixes that deeply confuse the fans, and he delivers an incredibly abbreviated set. It was a creative meltdown happening in real time, broadcast to the world.
It's the ultimate paradox. You have the power to order an ice rink built in a desert, but you don't have the emotional regulation to actually execute the performance. And it's not always emotional, right? Sometimes it's purely technical failure due to lack of preparation. Look at Grimes.
Grimes was a highly anticipated electronic set, but when she got up there, her electronic tracks were somehow playing at double tempo.
Explain to me how that even happens on that level of performance. Shouldn't this be locked in? I mean, it's her own music.
It should be meticulously programmed. But DJs rely on complex software to beat match and sync tempos. If the core math of the software gets corrupted, or if the artist inputs the wrong tempo parameters and doesn't have a backup analog plan, it falls apart.
So she was just up there guessing.
Basically, she was up there screaming into her microphone in total panic, trying to do the complex mental math to beat match tracks that were completely out of sync.
Oh, that's so embarrassing.
She effectively ruined her first Coachella set. When the digital logistics fail, the artist is left totally exposed on a very quiet stage.
And sometimes the exposure isn't technical, it's interpersonal, and it is incredibly awkward to watch. I'm thinking back to Drake bringing Madonna on stage.
Oh, that was a moment of PR collision for the ages. Madonna goes in for a very passionate kiss, which is entirely on brand for her provocative image. But Drake visibly recoils.
He looked genuinely disgusted.
He was wiping his mouth, later trying to do damage control by blaming the taste of her lipstick. It became this massive viral moment of humiliation that neither of their massive PR teams could control. The human reaction bypassed the script.
But the industry is actively trying to bypass the human reaction altogether, aren't they? That's what terrifies me about the technological creep on these stages. Remember the Tupac hologram?
Right. It was initially hailed as a profound technological marvel. They resurrected a deceased icon using complex light projection.
But then, during a performance, the projection glitched. The hologram literally turned to digital dust on stage and blew away.
It was incredibly eerie.
It was. But it paved the way for these terrifying AI performance implications we are seeing now. We're looking at a very near future where the artist doesn't even need to be alive, let alone present, to generate ticket sales.
Which becomes an increasingly attractive option to management teams when you consider the brutal backlash live human performers receive now. Look at the massive K-pop group Les Seraphim.
Oh, the internet was brutal to them.
They performed live, completely vulnerable, actually singing into their microphones, and they received massive, crushing online backlash over their live vocal abilities.
Because the internet expects them to sound exactly like the heavily produced, pitch-corrected Spotify track.
Exactly. The demand for studio-perfect vocals while simultaneously performing intense, highly choreographed dance routines in a dusty, windy, sleep-deprived desert environment is mathematically and biologically impossible to meet.
Yeah, they're human beings, not vocaloids.
Look, the audience doesn't care about the biology.
And sometimes the artists just snap under that gaze. Tyler, the creator, had a moment where he just pointed out the VIP section, called them soft, and specifically singled out Kendall Jenner in the crowd to yell expletives at her from the stage. The antagonism between the performer and the consumer is just palpable.
The takeaway here is that the curse isn't supernatural. It's the mathematical probability of failure when you subject human beings to extreme environments, impossible expectations, and crushing financial obligations.
But here's the thing that really gets me. That intense curation, that hyper-management, that obsessive need for control, it doesn't turn off when the stage lights go down.
Not at all.
We see that exact same hyper-management bleeding straight into who these people are allowed to love. When the personal life becomes just another stage, the reality of celebrity romance becomes incredibly blurred.
It is a fascinating pivot from stage management to narrative control. Let's look at the highly publicized timeline of the actor Callum Turner and the pop star Dua Lipa.
Okay, yes, let's unpack this one because the whiplash here is incredible. I'm still trying to process it.
Callum Turner is a rising British actor. From late 2022 to late 2023, he was secretly dating a woman named Victoria. Now, interestingly, Victoria used to be Kylie Jenner's executive assistant, so she is no stranger to the mechanics of fame.
Right, she knows how the game works.
During their relationship, Callum allegedly insisted on it being 100% private. He practically built his entire identity with Victoria around being the anti-Hollywood, low-key artist. He claimed he hated the paparazzi, hated the spotlight, and found highly publicized events like the Met Gala incredibly corny and beneath him.
He used privacy as a shield. He was the brooding, serious actor who couldn't be bothered with the celebrity circus. But then there is a dinner date.
Yes, according to Victoria, she and Callum were on a very private dinner date at the famous River Cafe in London, just the two of them. And purely by coincidence, Dua Lipa happens to be dining at the same restaurant that night. They're introduced.
And what happens next is blistering. By late 2023, Callum and Victoria have abruptly broken up. And by January 2024, Callum is publicly slow dancing with Dua Lipa at a massive event.
The shift in his behavior is staggering. Currently, they are reportedly engaged. He is seen actively fighting off paparazzi in Paris to defend her honor, creating these highly dramatic, romantic, viral moments.
It's like a movie script.
And he is walking the red carpet at the Met Gala, the exact event he previously claimed to despise. He has done a complete 180-degree turn from his previous stance on privacy and fame.
I mean, imagine you're Victoria. You spent a year hiding in the shadows because your partner claimed he was allergic to fame, and 3 months later, he's the star of the biggest paparazzi show on Earth.
It's gotta sting.
I look at this and I see what I call a romantic resume. When an actor changes his entire philosophy on privacy that quickly, it reveals that these supposedly hardwired boundaries in relationships are actually entirely conditional.
Oh, absolutely conditional.
They are based entirely on the perceived market value of the partner. With Victoria, privacy was a shield. With a global superstar like Dua Lipa, public visibility is a massive career asset.
You've hit on the core mechanism. Celebrity dating isn't just about emotional connection. It is fundamentally about brand alignment. And sometimes it's about narrative control regarding one's own identity under a microscope. We can see this dynamic playing out with Shawn Mendes.
Yes, his relationship timelines are intensely scrutinized. He has recently been linked to Bruna Marquezine.
Bruna is a highly successful Brazilian soap star. She was in the DC superhero movie Blue Beetle, and she previously dated the global soccer star Neymar. Shawn has reportedly been liking her social media photos since they first met at the Rock in Rio festival way back in 2017.
Right, and recently they were spotted packing on heavy public displays of affection. But almost immediately, vocal critics online labeled it a phony makeout session or accused them of having a beard arrangement.
Yeah, the internet is ruthless with him.
And we have to view this through the lens of Shawn's very vulnerable, very public quotes about his own sexuality.
He has spoken quite openly and painfully about the intense societal pressure to define himself. He admitted that he is just figuring it out and that the speculation feels incredibly scary.
Which is completely understandable for anyone, let alone someone growing up with millions of people analyzing their every move. But it raises a really difficult question, you know. When a star is grappling with their authentic self under a global microscope, how much of their public romantic life is genuine emotional exploration, and how much is a calculated PR strategy to buy time, manage public expectations, or change a news cycle?
It is likely a tangled mixture of both, which is what makes it so psychologically taxing. It's like trying to cast a co-star for a multi-year reality show while also trying to fall in love with them. The pressure warps the intention.
It totally does.
And speaking of casting a co-star, Jennifer Lopez has essentially made a career out of the highly publicized romantic reality show.
Oh, she is the reigning champion of it. Post-divorce, the narrative is shifting again. She is allegedly dating a 23-year-old backup dancer from her latest production.
The power dynamics here are incredibly complex. You have a global icon, a billionaire, who is reportedly terrified of public ridicule over the age gap, especially given her highly publicized history of failed, high-profile romances.
She doesn't want another media circus.
Right. On the other side of the equation, you have a 23-year-old employee who is reportedly bragging to all his friends about landing a superstar.
And the timeline context is wild because J.Lo has admitted in interviews that she has essentially never been single since her early 20s. She goes directly from relationship to relationship.
It's a pattern.
And now her own children are heading off to college. This means her children are practically the exact same age as her new alleged lover.
When you look at that dynamic, you have to ask yourself, at what point does the line between a genuine emotional connection and a strategic PR alliance completely blur?
I think it blurs the moment the relationship serves a utility beyond the partnership itself. If the relationship is a shield against being alone or a way to stay relevant in the tabloids, the other person becomes a prop.
Yes, a literal prop.
And we see these props utilized at festivals constantly. Remember how we talked about Coachella being a pressure cooker?
Yeah.
It isn't just a music venue, it's a strategic staging ground for PR breakups and makeups.
Absolutely. Billie Eilish had a very messy, highly scrutinized split from the musician Jesse Rutherford right at the festival. And almost immediately following that, she was photographed getting very cozy with the queer actress Ava Capri.
Or Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello having that bizarre, highly photographed makeout session at Coachella a full year after their official, highly publicized breakup.
Oh, that was so calculated.
They knew exactly where the cameras were. They knew exactly what the headlines would be the next morning. It's all content. It's all feeding the beast.
But if romantic relationships are heavily produced, what happens when that production scales up? What happens to family dynamics when an entire bloodline is turned into a corporate enterprise?
Oh, this is where the machinery gets truly terrifying. We have to talk about the manufactured empire of the Kardashian-Jenners. Because right now, the foundational myth of their entire multi-billion-dollar existence is under severe legal threat.
To understand this family, you have to understand their origin story, which is currently facing a massive legal reckoning. We are looking at the upcoming unsealing of Kim Kardashian and Kris Jenner's 2023 settlement with the artist Ray J.
Okay, I need you to break down the legal mechanics of this because I don't think people realize how high the stakes are here.
Well, Ray J has long claimed that Kris Jenner explicitly orchestrated the original leaked tape with a production company, complete with signed contracts.
Right.
And on their Hulu show, Kim vehemently denied this, essentially painting Ray J to their millions of viewers as a liar trying to exploit them.
So in response to that portrayal, Ray J took the nuclear legal option. He sued them for defamation, but he utilized RICO charges.
Yes, RICO.
Wait, RICO, as in the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, the law they used to take down the mafia.
Exactly. RICO was designed to dismantle organized crime syndicates by allowing the leaders of a syndicate to be tried for the crimes they ordered others to do or assisted in doing.
That is wild.
By applying RICO to the Kardashian-Jenners, Ray J's legal team was arguing that the family functions as a literal corrupt enterprise that coordinates to defame, extort, and manipulate narratives for financial gain.
Using a mob law against reality TV stars is it's brilliant but wild. So what happened?
To prevent this from going to a highly public trial and discovery process, there was a settlement reached in 2023. Usually, these settlements are sealed. But recently, a judge explicitly denied Kim's request to keep the details of that settlement permanently sealed.
So the vault is opening.
The unsealing of these documents could definitively expose the family's foundational origin story as a highly orchestrated, legally documented PR lie. It would prove that the narrative of Kim as a victim of a leak was manufactured from day one.
It's exactly like finding out the base code of a massive global software company is totally corrupt and built on stolen intellectual property.
That's a great analogy.
And when a tech company knows its base code is fragile and might crash, what do? They constantly push new, flashy software updates to distract the consumers. And that is exactly what the family is doing right now. Enter Kylie Jenner's massive identity rebrand.
Kylie is pivoting away from the aesthetic that made her a billionaire. She recently appeared in Charli XCX's mockumentary film, and during the press, she claimed that acting was actually a childhood dream of hers.
Acting? Really?
Yeah. She also went on Kid Cudi's podcast, presenting a much more laid-back, indie, almost bohemian persona. She talked about smoking weed to his track and revealed they are working together to executive produce her new music.
She is desperately trying to find her sound and her new artistic identity ever since the massive conglomerate Carity bought out the majority stake of her makeup brand.
She needs a new angle.
She sold the company, so she has to invent a new reason for us to look at her. It's a total identity shift. But the mask of this new laid-back indie girl slips when you look at the bizarre details of her actual life.
You're referring to the pets.
Yes. The pets as props. Kylie was recently on social media flaunting a Scottish fold cat on a literal diamond leash, which was reportedly a gift from the actor Timothée Chalamet.
Now, from an animal welfare perspective, Scottish folds are a deeply controversial breed. They are notorious for incredibly painful genetic deformities. The mutation that folds their ears also affects their cartilage throughout their entire bodies.
But the internet didn't even focus on the ethics of the breed, which is sad in itself. The immediate reaction from longtime followers was to pivot from the cat and ask, where are all the dogs?
It is a documented phenomenon. Over the years, Kylie and Kim have acquired dozens of dogs, puppies, and various exotic pets. They are featured heavily for a few months of Instagram content, integrated into their aesthetic, and then they mysteriously vanish, never to be mentioned or seen again.
It highlights a deeply unsettling pattern of treating living, breathing creatures as disposable props to fuel the content machine. And if pets are disposable props, we have to take a hard look at the generational exploitation happening with the actual human children in this family.
The normalization of this highly scrutinized existence for the next generation is underway. Kylie recently showed her 8-year-old daughter, Stormy, the very first episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Wow.
Her stated goal was to explain to her daughter why their family is famous.
I want you to imagine being an 8-year-old child sitting on a couch and your mother plays you a television show detailing the immediate aftermath of a tape leak scandal to explain why you have security guards.
It's hard to wrap your head around.
And Stormy is also navigating a world where her elementary school friends are fans of her father, the rapper Travis Scott.
Which brings its own immense psychological baggage, tying back into the lingering, horrific controversy of Kylie continuing to throw Astroworld-themed birthday parties for her children, completely tone-deaf to the mass casualty tragedy that occurred at that exact festival.
It's a spectrum of exploitation. You have Kylie trying to softly normalize the fame for Stormy, and then you have Kim taking a much more aggressive, almost experimental approach with her oldest daughter, Northwest.
North is everywhere.
She is. She's highly visible, deeply embedded in the public eye on TikTok, performing at massive venues. Yet, Kim enforces strictly different, much more private rules for her younger children. It is literally as if the eldest children in this family are the beta testers for the next generation of the corporate brand.
And the entitlement that this hyper-insulated environment breeds is just staggering to witness. Let's look at the logistics of Kim's private jet, dubbed Kim Air.
Ugh, this makes my blood boil. The environmental disconnect is insane.
Flight trackers have documented her taking trips that require 84 gallons of jet fuel for incredibly short distances. We are talking about flights that last mere minutes, taken laterally across the city, literally just to avoid sitting in Los Angeles traffic on the highway.
Burning 84 gallons of jet fuel to avoid a traffic jam.
Yep.
It is a level of existence completely disconnected from environmental reality, economic reality, or normal human constraints. It is the behavior of an emperor.
The psychological impact of being raised in this environment is profound. Imagine being a child raised with the knowledge that your family's infinite wealth originated from a highly orchestrated, legally contested scandal, and that your primary function within the family dynamic is content generation to sustain that wealth.
Can a family ever have authentic, unconditional relationships when every interaction, every pet, every child is a potential storyline to be monetized?
I genuinely don't think they can.
And this relentless, exhausting need to maintain the brand, to protect the fragile ego, doesn't just damage the family. It creates wildly toxic environments when these stars are forced to leave their bubble and collaborate with other massive egos on set.
Which brings us to the collapse of the Hollywood workplace. The illusion is that a film set is a family. The reality is that it is a highly volatile corporate environment. Let's look at the absolute logistical and interpersonal disaster of Euphoria Season 3.
The delays on this show have been monumental. It feels like it's been a decade since Season 2. What is actually happening behind the scenes?
A total breakdown of leadership and collaboration. The creator and director, Sam Levinson, essentially blamed his lead actress, Zendaya, for the massive delays, claiming her busy filming schedule for other movies was the primary roadblock.
Which is a bold move to blame your biggest star.
Right? And Zendaya, who rarely engages in public feuds, fired back publicly and pointedly, stating that she has been free and waiting to work.
The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. And it spilled out into public view at a recent premiere event. Zendaya was visibly ignoring her co-star Sydney Sweeney on the red carpet. She flat out refused photo ops with Levinson, the man who directed her to multiple Emmys, and she left the event early.
And the friction with Sydney Sweeney has layers. Sweeney is currently dating Scooter Braun.
Oh, that complicates things.
Braun is a 44-year-old mega manager with a highly controversial industry reputation, most famously for his feud with Taylor Swift over her master recordings. Bringing a polarizing power broker like Braun into the already fraught interpersonal dynamics of the Euphoria cast only adds gasoline to the fire.
And the internal rebellion isn't just the actors, it is bleeding out into the creative team. Labyrinth, the musical genius who created the show's iconic haunting score, actually leaked Season 3 music online himself.
He was that fed up.
And he didn't just leak it, he posted it with a caption explicitly cursing out Columbia Records and the show itself.
When the creative team is in open public revolt, the final product inevitably suffers. The new season is reportedly sitting at a dismal 57% on internal Rotten Tomatoes metrics. To patch the holes, they feature a jarring 5-year time jump.
I heard about that.
And most bizarrely, they made the creative decision to keep the deceased actor Angus Cloud's character alive via one-sided phone calls, which many find deeply uncomfortable and disrespectful. It is a structural mess.
It completely deconstructs the myth of the Hollywood family. You know how they always sit on those press corps couches and say, oh, we're a family, we love each other so much?
It's almost always a lie.
These are high-stakes workplaces. When a project is successful, everyone scrambles over each other to claim the credit. But when egos clash or the product stumbles, the PR machinery immediately turns co-stars into mortal enemies. Look at the legal warfare between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni on the film It Ends With Us.
That case is a masterclass in the dangers of legal hubris. The set was notoriously difficult, and the post-release press tour was heavily fractured.
You could see the tension in every interview.
So Blake Lively decided to escalate it to the courts. She filed a massive lawsuit against Baldoni, her director and co-star, making 13 severe claims against him, including allegations of hostile work environment and sexual harassment.
Those are incredibly serious allegations that can end a career overnight. What happened in court?
The legal system requires evidence, not just PR narratives. The judge completely threw out 10 of those thumping claims almost immediately, effectively reducing her massive case to what the judge allegedly referred to as small potatoes regarding minor creative disagreements. Baldoni was deeply vindicated by this legal reality check.
But I want to know why her highly paid legal team's strategy collapsed so spectacularly. Like, how did they miscalculate so badly?
It collapsed because of a staggering contradiction created by Blake Lively herself. To win a claim of a hostile work environment, you generally have to prove you were subjected to it without the power to stop it.
Makes sense.
But during the production, Lively submitted an official letter to the Producers Guild of America. In this letter, she actively bragged about having total, overarching creative control over every single aspect of the film.
Oh, wow. So she documented her own ultimate authority. She literally wrote it down.
Exactly. The defense used her own letter against her. It completely contradicted her legal claim that she was a powerless victim of Baldoni's set environment. If you have total control, you cannot claim you were powerless to stop the environment you were controlling.
That's a massive oversight by her lawyers.
Furthermore, the sheer unprofessionalism of her legal communications was highlighted. She literally used a dragon emoji in her official legal correspondence with opposing counsel.
Wait, a dragon emoji in a harassment lawsuit?
Yes.
It shows how the insulated echo chambers of fame convince these actors that they can weaponize the actual legal system to litigate their interpersonal annoyances. It's a complete misunderstanding of what the courts are for. It really seems like being a co-star in Hollywood is like being in a forced arranged marriage where the prenup is just mutually assured PR destruction.
That's incredibly accurate.
Is the era of the old school diva over, or has it just evolved into weaponizing HR terminology and legal threats to destroy your rivals?
It has absolutely evolved. The terminology has changed, but the goal of dominating the narrative remains the same. Look at the incredibly sudden fallout between Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo on the massive production of Wicked.
That was a textbook PR pivot. During filming and the early press drops, the narrative was shoved down our throats. They had a highly promoted, deeply codependent, sisterly friendship.
They're inseparable.
There were even dark rumors circulating that they were engaging in competitive eating disorders, bonding over extreme physical unhealthiness to play these roles.
But then, suddenly, the narrative shifted overnight. The facade just dropped. Ariana completely ghosted Cynthia.
Just like that.
She left her texts on read, refused to engage, and now they reportedly harbor active mutual hatred for one another. The machinery built the friendship, and the machinery dismantled it when it was no longer useful.
But sometimes the toxicity isn't just clashing egos at the top of the call sheet. Sometimes it is deeply ingrained, normalized psychological abuse directed at the vulnerable. Lili Reinhart recently spoke about a genuinely traumatic experience on set.
Yes, she detailed an incident where a male director walked up to her between takes. He didn't yell. He didn't berate her in front of the crew. He silently leaned over into her personal space and whispered, "Just suck in your stomach a little."
That one quietly delivered sentence triggered extreme body dysmorphia for her. She talked about how it caused her to completely dissociate from her body during the entire filming process. You have to be present in your body to act, and he severed that connection with a whisper.
It perfectly highlights how casually brutal the industry is toward bodies, particularly women's bodies. It is an exertion of control that is so normalized, it barely registers as abuse to the perpetrators.
And this is where we need to take a serious tonal shift. Because while petty feuds, body shaming, and legal maneuvering are one level of darkness, the industry's power dynamics often cross the line into genuine predatory exploitation. We have to handle this with the analytical gravity it deserves. Let's talk about the shocking and horrifying case of Haley Beck.
Haley Beck is the 27-year-old sister of the massive social media influencer Noah Beck. She was employed as a high school teacher, and she used that position of authority to groom a male student before his 18th birthday.
It's just sickening.
The specific details of how she manipulated him are horrifying.
Break down the mechanisms of how she did this because it shows a terrifying level of calculation.
She systematically dismantled his boundaries. She provided him with drugs and alcohol. She gave him money over $600. She gave him free access to her personal car.
She was buying his compliance.
And most egregiously, from an institutional standpoint, she literally gave him fake A grades in the psychology and sociology classes she taught him. She ensured he wouldn't have to do homework, creating a dynamic where his academic success was tied directly to his compliance with her abuse.
And the digital footprint of this abuse is staggering. There are over 4,000 text messages documented between them. In these texts, the psychological manipulation is laid bare. She refers to herself as his sugar mama.
It's so manipulative.
She complains to this teenager that the dynamic feels like straight prostitution, trying to guilt him, yet she constantly demands deep emotional commitment, texting him manipulative things like, "I cried myself to sleep because you didn't say love you back."
And it is crucial to note that the victim in this case actively resisted her manipulation. He called her a crybaby. He was clearly uncomfortable with the pressure. She aggressively demanded to be called pet names, like darling or doll. In one text, which demonstrates the absolute transactional grossness of the situation she created, the victim texted, "I won't be seeing you today unless you pick me up from the airport and just devour my Terra." The power dynamic was completely warped by her authority and financial leverage.
And the cover-up attempt was right out of a mafia playbook. When the police finally got involved, Haley flat out lied to their faces, claiming they had no relationship whatsoever. And here is where the proximity to fame comes in. Her famous brother, Noah Beck, allegedly attempted to intervene by paying the victim's family hush money to make the criminal investigation go right.
The family was terrified. They feared that coming forward would ruin the boy's athletic scholarships and his future. The leverage of wealth and fame was used to silence the victim.
Did it work?
Ultimately, the evidence was too overwhelming, and she was unanimously fired by the school board. But the entitlement, the core belief that the laws do not apply to you because of who your brother is sickening.
That specific entitlement, the belief that you exist above the moral and legal framework of society, is a common thread in these upper echelons. We see a different, equally disturbing manifestation of it with Drake's predatory patterns.
Drake's behavior regarding young women has been scrutinized for years. Recently, he actively pursued an 18-year-old content creator named Sophie Rain. And the reason why is deeply unsettling. By her own admission and echoed by public commentary, she looks 12.
Which directly, horrifyingly ties back to his deeply uncomfortable history of texting actual minors, like the actress Millie Bobby Brown when she was a young teenager.
The pattern is undeniable.
And Sophie Rain actually spoke about her interactions with him. She revealed that she fumbled an all-expenses-paid trip to the Bahamas with Drake because she was genuinely scared to go to a foreign country alone with a powerful man much older than her.
A completely rational fear for an 18-year-old. And how did he respond to her boundary? When she ghosted him out of fear, he didn't respect it. He actively guilt-tripped her to the point where she later called him a diva.
He threw a tantrum.
The entitlement to young women's bodies, their time, and their compliance is relentless. He expected her to overcome her fear simply because of who he was.
It also extends to how minority talent is treated within the corporate music machine itself. It is an exploitation of identity. Look at the structural racism scandal surrounding the newly formed girl group Katseye.
The creation of that group was documented in a Netflix series, and the narrative crafted around Manon, the only black member of the group, was incredibly insidious. During the process, she was forced into a hiatus. But the editing of the documentary perpetuated a highly specific, highly damaging trope. They framed her as the lazy black girl.
It's a racist trope that has been used for centuries to devalue black labor. And it wasn't just the editors in a room. The toxicity bled into the families of the other girls. The parents of the other members, specifically Daniela's father, were publicly trashing Manon online, fueling the hatred against a young woman in their daughter's own group.
Manon gave an incredibly poignant, heartbreaking quote recently. She said she realizes she has to work twice as hard as everyone else in the room just to not be immediately labeled lazy.
That's heartbreaking.
The structural racism and the deliberate social isolation she faced within her own group is a profound form of corporate exploitation. They wanted her aesthetic for the group, but they subjected her to intense psychological hostility.
And sometimes this entitlement isn't hidden in text messages or editing bays. It is just hilariously, aggressively absurd in broad daylight. Let's talk about Brian Littrell from the Backstreet Boys.
Oh, this is a prime example. There is viral video footage of Littrell confronting a normal beachgoer named Kyle on a public beach in Florida. Littrell aggressively shoved the man's camera and started screaming at him.
And why was he screaming?
His argument. He genuinely claimed that he owned the actual physical beach and the ocean access because he bought the multi-million-dollar house behind it.
He thought he bought the ocean.
Literally, yes.
Yeah. And when the guy didn't immediately bow down to her, Littrell started shouting homophobic slurs at the man, yelling, "You want to be gay," as an insult in 2024. Fame acts like a reality distortion field. If everyone around you says yes, sir, for 20 straight years, you start believing you own the beach, you own the law, you own the narrative, and you can buy off the victims.
The critical question is, how does the massive machinery around these stars enable this behavior instead of stopping it?
Right, where are the handlers?
The answer is that the machinery is designed to protect the asset at all costs. The managers, the publicists, the fixers, the lawyers, their job description is not moral guidance. Their job is risk mitigation and profit continuation. When you isolate a human being in that kind of hyperprotective, sycophantic bubble, their grip on reality fundamentally, biologically degrades.
And here's a fascinating psychological shift. When stars become entirely disconnected from reality, the public reacts in kind. The public begins to view them less as flawed, deteriorating human beings and more as supernatural entities.
They become myths.
Exactly. This leads us perfectly into the funhouse mirror of conspiracies. Let's start with Selena Gomez.
The Selena Gomez clone theory is incredibly pervasive and deeply disturbing when you look at the roots. A massive sector of the internet became obsessed with the idea that the real Selena either died or was ritually sacrificed by the Hollywood elite and was seamlessly replaced by a genetic clone.
And what evidence do these people possibly point to? Like, how do they justify this?
They point to the natural changes in her body. They analyze photos showing her changed facial structure, slight changes in her vocal timbre, and the fact that certain tattoos seem to disappear or fade in heavily edited magazine photos.
Selena is actually so aware of this that she addressed the clone rumor in a comedy skit. But the tragic reality behind the conspiracy is heartbreaking, and it perfectly illustrates my point about the public's inability to accept human frailty.
Exactly. Her physical changes are not the result of cloning. They are the direct, brutal result of battling severe autoimmune and mental health crises. She has lupus.
Right, which is incredibly serious.
She underwent aggressive chemotherapy to treat it. She had to have a full, life-saving kidney transplant. Furthermore, she openly suffers from bipolar disorder, a condition which can cause severe periods of mania, weight fluctuation due to medication, and intense dissociation that affects how she presents in public interviews.
But the public imagination runs wild. Instead of accepting the depressing medical reality of a chronically ill woman trying to survive, they invent science fiction. It is easier to say she's a clone than to say chemotherapy alters your face.
People don't want to deal with the sadness of reality.
And it doesn't stop at clones. They also tied her to Jeffrey Epstein because her name appeared in a single redacted email mention. There's even a wild, completely baseless theory floating around that she and Justin Bieber secretly had a baby years ago, and that baby is actually Kourtney Kardashian's son, Mason.
It is modern mythology. The ancient Greeks had gods turning into swans to explain the unexplainable. We have pop stars turning into clones, and no one has more mythology attached to them than Beyoncé.
Oh, Beyoncé is the undisputed queen of the conspiracy theory. Let's walk through the greatest hits, starting with the stem cells.
The premier theory is that Beyoncé actually died in the year 2000, right at the height of Destiny's Child, and was replicated by her management using highly advanced, secret stem cell technology.
And the evidence for this.
The primary evidence they cite for this massive scientific breakthrough, a short video clip of her sitting courtside at a Brooklyn Nets basketball game, where she is swaying back and forth looking completely dissociated and vacant.
So instead of thinking she's a tired mother of three who zoned out at a boring basketball game, they jump to her clone's operating system is rebooting.
Precisely. Then there are the exhaustive theories about her age and maternity. The claim is that she was actually born in 1974, not 1981. This wasn't entirely invented by the internet. It was actually fueled by a slip of the tongue from her own father and former manager, Matthew Knowles.
What did he say?
He stated in an interview that she is the exact same age as the singer Pink and the singer Usher, both of whom are older than Beyoncé's stated age. Her mother, Tina, also gave a highly confusing timeline in an interview about taking her to a Michael Jackson concert that mathematically does not align with her official birth year.
And that age discrepancy is the foundation from the most staggering theory of all, the Solange theory.
Yes. The theory posits that Solange, who was born in 1986, is not Beyoncé's sister, but is actually Beyoncé's biological daughter.
Wait, what?
The narrative is that Beyoncé had a teen pregnancy, and her parents raised Solange as her sister to cover it up and protect Beyoncé's pristine rising star image.
Which connects directly to the intense, borderline obsessive scrutiny around her actual pregnancies later in life. We have to talk about the folding stomach.
There is a famous, incredibly viral clip from an Australian talk show. Beyoncé sits down in a chair, and as she bends, her pregnant belly appears to literally fold and deflate in a way that looks physically unnatural.
I remember seeing that clip everywhere.
This burst the massive fake pregnancy theory, suggesting she used a surrogate but wore a prosthetic bump for PR.
But the internet took the fake pregnancy theory to a much darker, much more sinister place regarding her first child, Blue Ivy. Introduce us to the Kathy White theory.
This is where the conspiracies cross into alleged murder. There was a woman named Kathy White who was allegedly Jay-Z's longtime publicist and rumored mistress.
Okay.
According to the timeline compiled by theorists, Kathy White got pregnant in 2011. Right before Beyoncé announced her own pregnancy with incredible, iconic fanfare at the MTV VMAs, Kathy White died mysteriously of a brain aneurysm at the age of 29.
A completely tragic, sudden death of a young woman. How did the internet weaponize that?
The conspiracy theorists believe that Blue Ivy's real biological mother was Kathy White. They point to the extreme, unprecedented hospital lockdown that occurred during Blue Ivy's birth, where security guards were allegedly blocking the NICU as proof of a massive cover-up of the baby's true origins.
That is so dark.
Fans even go so far as to analyze the lyrics of Beyoncé's recent song Daughter, interpreting it as a literal, veiled murder confession regarding Kathy White.
And if you are already accused of cloning, faking pregnancies, and orchestrating murders, the internet figures, why not throw in the occult? Let's talk about the witchcraft accusations, because there is actual legal paperwork for this one.
Yes, this isn't just a rumor. Her former drummer, a woman named Kimberly Thompson, actually went to a court of law and filed for a restraining order against Beyoncé.
Really? A legal filing?
In her sworn legal filing, Thompson claimed Beyoncé used extreme witchcraft, dark magic, spells of molestation, tapped her phones, and literally murdered her pet kitten using spells.
A judge threw the request out, obviously, but the fact that it exists in the public record fuels the fire, and the theorists look at her art as proof.
They meticulously analyze the imagery of her massive Renaissance tour. They point to the visual of the solar eclipse, her riding a pale horse which biblically represents death, a falling angel riding a rocket, and imagery heavily evoking Kali, the Hindu goddess of destruction.
They dissect every frame.
Furthermore, Beyoncé has explicitly stated in the past that her Sasha Fierce alter ego literally takes over her body on stage, altering her voice and posture. To conspiracy theorists, this isn't complex artistic expression or performance persona. It is literal, documented demonic possession.
So I have to ask you, taking a step back from all the madness, do these conspiracies actually benefit the stars? Does it help them by making them seem larger than life, like immortal gods of pop culture? Or does it completely dehumanize them and strip them of their empathy?
It serves as a defense mechanism for the public, not the star. When a celebrity achieves a level of wealth, visual perfection, and cultural power that feels unearthly, attributing their struggles to mundane human frailty like an autoimmune disease or a cheating spouse shatters the illusion.
Right, it ruins the fantasy.
Conspiracies elevate them to mythical status, which, ironically, completely strips them of their humanity. It means we don't have to feel bad for them when they suffer because they aren't real people anymore.
Speaking of a total disconnect from humanity and a brand built entirely on a carefully constructed illusion, no one embodies the absolute fall from grace quite like the subject of our final section. We are talking about the collapse of the nice empire. We are talking about Ellen DeGeneres.
Ellen DeGeneres built a billion-dollar brand entirely on the simple concept of be kind. It was the safest, most unthreatening, universally beloved image in daytime television.
Everyone loved Ellen.
But when you look at the sheer volume of severe tragedy surrounding her personal and professional orbit, the internet has dubbed it the Ellen curse. And it involves a deeply disturbing, statistically bizarre pattern of fatal car accidents.
Let's start with the most recent and highly publicized, Anne Heche. Anne was Ellen's ex-girlfriend in the late 90s, a hugely famous couple. But years later, Anne claimed that Ellen actively blackballed her in Hollywood after their messy breakup, essentially destroying her mainstream film career. Then, in 2022, Anne died horrifically.
The details of the crash are terrifying. She crashed her 2020 Mini Cooper at high speeds directly into a house in Fresno, California. Before the crash, she had made erratic statements, reportedly claiming she was looking for an alien spaceship to take her to heaven.
Which points to a severe mental health crisis. But the internet doesn't believe it was an accident. Break down the mechanics of the conspiracy for me.
The details of the crash and the rescue are highly suspicious to theorists. The fire rescue took an inexplicable 45 minutes to extract her from the burning vehicle. There is news helicopter footage capturing her being wheeled to the ambulance, where she suddenly sits up violently on the stretcher, fighting the restraints.
Which looks like someone fighting for their life who is fully awake.
Medically, it is often explained as a phenomenon known as the Lazarus reflex, a spinal reflex arc that can cause a clinically dead or deeply unconscious body to sit up or raise its arms.
Creepy, but medical.
But to a layman with a helicopter camera, it looks like resurrection. Furthermore, the toxicology report showed inactive cocaine metabolites in her system, meaning she had used in the past, but she wasn't currently high at the time of the crash.
So if she wasn't high, what caused the crash? This birthed the massive conspiracy that her car's QNX operating system was hacked. I need you to explain what QNX is because this is where the tech anxiety meets the celebrity conspiracy.
QNX is a Unix-like real-time operating system. It is heavily embedded in millions of modern cars, governing everything from the infotainment system to the internal telemetry and braking systems.
So it's the car's brain.
Right. The conspiracy posits that because the car is fundamentally a computer on wheels, hackers remotely hijack the QNX system, seize control of the vehicle's acceleration and steering, and deliberately crash the car to assassinate her.
And why would they want to assassinate an indie actress?
Because she had just finished filming a movie about underground human trafficking called Girl in Room 13. The theorists believe she uncovered actual elite trafficking rings and was silenced before the premiere.
And Ellen's response to the paparazzi asking about Anne's death on the street was shockingly cold, just total blank apathy. But Anne wasn't the first ex to die in a bizarre crash. Look at Kathy Perkoff, who went by Kat.
Kat was Ellen's 20-year-old ex-girlfriend back when Ellen was coming up in New Orleans. They had a fight at a concert. Ellen admitted she deliberately ignored Kat to teach her a lesson. On her way home from that concert, Kat died in a devastating crash.
And the details of that crash are what fuel the rumors. Her 1980 Mercedes 450 SL hit a tree, but the car perfectly split in half, and there were absolutely no skid marks on the road.
The physics of a car perfectly splitting in half with no braking marks fueled rampant rumors of tampered brakes, drug trafficking connections, and whispered fears of a group referred to as the lesbian mafia.
And how did Ellen process this horrific trauma? She literally used Kat's death as material in her stand-up comedy routines.
That is dark.
She would joke about how after the death, she had to move into a basement and sleep on a flea-infested mattress. She monetized the tragedy immediately.
The vehicular tragedies continue in her orbit. You have Leslie Jordan, a very close personal friend and frequent beloved co-star on The Ellen Show. He died suddenly after suffering an unexplained medical emergency behind the wheel, causing him to crash his car into a building in Hollywood.
He was universally loved, too.
The proximity of vehicular tragedy surrounding one person is statistically bizarre, and the internet notices patterns.
But the tragedy that truly broke the internet and shattered the remaining pieces of her facade was Stephen Twitch Boss.
Stephen was Ellen's beloved, universally adored DJ from 2014 to 2022. He was the dancing heart of the show. In 2022, he left his home without his car, which was highly unusual, and was later found dead in a Los Angeles hotel room.
When Ellen posted a tribute to him on social media, the internet backlash was ferocious. People completely rejected her grief. They accused her PR team of orchestrating a disingenuous post to save face.
The comments were brutal.
The conspiracies exploded, claiming that Twitch knew too much about the toxic, abusive environment behind the scenes of her show, or perhaps something even darker, and that he was silenced.
Which inevitably drags us into the deepest, darkest waters of the internet. The Wayfair and pizza conspiracies.
Oh boy. Walk us through how a talk show host gets linked to global trafficking rings.
It starts with associations. Remember the famous 2014 Oscars when Ellen hosted and ordered pizzas for the celebrity
The
audience?
selfie year, yeah.
Theorists tie that directly to the presence of men like Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey in that room, claiming that pizza is established dark web code for unspeakable crimes against minors.
And then there was the Wayfair child trafficking conspiracy.
During the pandemic, Ellen heavily promoted the furniture brand Wayfair on her platform. Right around that same time, the internet discovered a bizarre anomaly on the Wayfair website. They were selling extremely basic filing cabinets for upwards of $12,000 each.
For filing cabinet.
Yes. The chilling detail was that the specific product names of these cabinets matched the names of high-profile missing children.
So the internet deduced that you weren't buying a cabinet, you were buying the child. And because Ellen promoted the brand, she was deemed the ringleader.
It perfectly illustrates the pendulum swing of public perception. When a brand built purely on unthreatening, dancing niceness cracks, the public imagination doesn't just swing to, she's a mean boss who yells at interns.
Right, it goes all the way.
It swings to the absolute darkest, most extreme opposite end of the human spectrum. She becomes an actual cartoon villain running a global cabal.
It's exactly like finding out the person playing Mickey Mouse at Disneyland is secretly running a violent cartel out of the costume. The extreme contrast is the jet fuel for the conspiracy. And now, the final chapter of this saga. There are widespread reports that Ellen and her wife, Portia de Rossi, have completely sold their massive Montecito estate and have permanently fled the United States to live in rural England.
Their official PR reason for the move cited their dismay over recent American election results.
But nobody buys that.
The conspiracy theorists certainly don't. They believe they have fled to a country where they can fight extradition, specifically amidst the rising public calls and legal maneuvers to finally unseal the infamous Diddy and Jeffrey Epstein client lists. They believe she ran before the storm hit.
What does the sheer volume of tragedy, death, and darkness surrounding one talk show host actually tell us about the environment she cultivated? Even if we strip away every single wild internet theory and just look at the facts, the collateral damage of her orbit is immense.
It tells us that proximity to absolute unchecked power is inherently physically dangerous. The Be Kind facade was the perfect, impenetrable cover for an empire that consumed the people who worked within it, leaving a trail of broken lives and very convenient silence.
So we need to synthesize all of this. We have journeyed from the bloody panic stages of Coachella into the hyper-managed romantic PR timelines, through the Kardashian boardroom of exploitation, onto the bitterly toxic sets of Hollywood blockbusters, and finally into the darkest, most paranoid corners of internet witchcraft and trafficking conspiracies.
We've covered a lot of ground.
There is one massive common thread tying every single one of these stories together today.
It is the desperate, exhausting illusion of control. Every single person we discussed today is violently trying to assert control over a chaotic reality. A pop star tries to control the narrative of an overlapping romance to protect his marketability.
Exactly.
A director tries to control a young actress's body by whispering a command in her ear. A billionaire talk show host tries to outrun a deeply toxic legacy by packing up and moving across the ocean.
But the skyscraper is swaying. The pressure from the bottom is too much. And I want to leave you, listening right now, with this final provocative thought. Think about this the next time you are scrolling through your phone and you see a pristine, glowing celebrity photo or a perfect red carpet interview.
Yeah, look a little closer.
If the reality of Hollywood is actually this messy, this litigious, this abusive, and this incredibly dark, are the conspiracy theories actually a comfort to us? Is it somehow less terrifying for you and me to believe that a pop star is a lab-grown clone programmed by a cabal, rather than admitting the terrifying truth, that they are just a deeply traumatized, flawed human being breaking down in real time under the weight of our collective expectations?
It's a heavy thought.
Think about that. Thank you so much for taking this incredibly long, intricate journey down the rabbit hole with us today on this deep dive. Keep questioning the pristine images they sell you. Until next time.